So this is probably be kind of a long story before I get into the main point of this video. But the last few releases I've done as alt Brax, I started playing bass again, and I was really getting into that. I played double bass for a while, and then not too long after like my last release as alt Brax, my buddy was selling his Telecaster. I used to play guitar as a teenager. My enjoyment of that Telecaster was pretty short lived. As soon as I started playing metal, I realized that single coil pickups weren't going to work. One of the things I noticed when I started playing guitar again is, there's so many options available. Like, do you go buy an amp and a cab and then mic that up? Do you use software? There's like a ton of really good plugins. First thing I did was bought a bunch of Neural DSP stuff. I have Helix native, like just the VST. I messed around with that for a while. I bought an H&K Tubemeister Deluxe 20. I used that for a little bit. It was pretty good. I liked that it had a built-in cab emulation, but the cab emulation that was built in was kind of meh. It was really limited. I continued looking for something better until I found this. So this is what I'm going to be reviewing. It's the Revv G20. So it's a 20-watt tube amp. It has a built-in cabinet simulation, except it's a lot more in-depth and tweakable than what you get with like a Tubemeister. So I'm going to go through that. But I really love this thing. It works really well for what I use it for. All right, let's start with the front panel. So first up, this big toggle here. This is your power switch. So let's turn that on. Okay, now we can take it out of standby. So you got your standard gain knob followed by your classic 3-band EQ. So you have treble, mid, and then bass, and then your output volume here. This is really hard for me to do. I'm like holding my guitar behind this mic stand and but the EQ's got a pretty wide range of control here. Usually I like to boost the bass a bit, cut the mids, and then boost the treble as well. The gain's pretty awesome. Something really unique to the G20 is this aggression switch here. So this cycles between 3 different aggression modes, which changes the amp's voicing. This essentially gives you 3 different channels in one channel, like just in the dirty channel. So you have off, blue, and then red. And these can kind of be thought of as like crunch and then rhythm and then lead. It just changes the way that the amp's voiced. Obviously red is the most aggressive. I usually keep it on red. So down at the bottom here, we've got this little pre/post switch, and this allows you to send either the preamp signal or the power amp signal to the DI output. With the Torpedo, you can have power amp simulation as well. So if you turn this on, then you're only sending the preamp out to the DI, which just avoids stacking 2 power amps. Store button here allows you to save settings per channel and even save your startup settings, including your aggression settings and this, which I'll explain in a minute. Now down here, sorry, wow, my hand is like right in the way. This is not effective. We'll just, okay, there. See where my finger's pointing? Anyways, between the mid and bass controls, you've got this wide button, and that changes the amp voicing across both channels. So it provides more low end on the gain channel and a brighter top end on the clean channel. I personally like to leave this on all the time. It just sounds thicker to me. So without it, and then with it on. And then even on the clean channel, so we switch over. You can hear it like really thickens the sound up. Then over here between the bass and volume controls, Revv has included a 4 and 20 watt switch, so you can switch between 4 or 20 watts. If you're in an apartment and want to use a cab, setting it to 4 watts is probably a good idea, unless you like pissing off your neighbors. One quick tip though is if you press this, even if you're just using the DI, you might get a pop sound, so usually I turn the volume down, but yeah. I don't know if you can hear that. The last control here, this is what really sets the G20 apart. So this amp actually has a Two Notes Torpedo built right in. So you can have up to 6 different virtual cabinets saved as presets. And you can access all 6 of those just by using this knob here. But what's even more cool is that over MIDI, you can actually have up to 128 saved, which is more cabinets than I think anyone really needs access to. You can have different cabinets for your dirty channel as well as your clean channel and your different aggression settings. So you can save these using this store button. So I don't remember exactly which cabinets I have saved each of these 6 presets. But let's say, I don't know, I wanted the dirty channel to be saved on like the highest aggression setting. I want to use this cabinet. You just hold the store button until it flashes. Now the amp will remember your settings here. So then let's say I want the clean channel to have this cabinet. You can hit store, and there we go. So now it will remember if I turn this off, turn it back on, switch between these channels, it knows which cabinet I'm using, which is pretty cool. So now that we looked at the front panel, we're going to take a look at how we can manage presets, cabinets, and the reverb from the Torpedo software. I'm not going to spend too much time on this just because this application is used for a variety of different Torpedo products. So there's a lot of like dedicated videos already. But if you've connected your Revv over USB, it should show a little picture of the amp here. And then within this application, now you can manage all of your presets, cabinets, mics, your gate settings, whether or not you want to use the amps power amp section or use the emulated power amp. If you want to try different tubes, you can again use that pre and post switch on the front of the G20 and then turn this on and choose whatever tubes you want. So up here you can see I've got 6 different presets already loaded, but when I mentioned earlier that you can have 128, you can see in this massive list here, but those are obviously only accessible over MIDI. So if you want to change one of these presets, like I've named this Clean 212, under here you can view which cabinet you have currently selected or loaded onto that preset. And there are a ton of cabinets. All these ones with the little cloud icon are ones that I don't actually own. So you can purchase those. Revv G20 actually includes a few IRs of their own cabinets, which is pretty cool. I bought this angle pack because I think it sounds really good. So anyways, if I wanted to change cabinets, I could just pick a different cabinet and you have the little image here. And then you can adjust your mics. So there's 2 mics. I guess I had the second one muted on this preset. But you've got all of your standard mic options, various dynamics, ribbons, and then condenser mics. So you can adjust the level of each mic. You can change the position, both whether or not it's on axis or off axis, plus the mic distance. You can adjust the preset level, which is really helpful. Obviously, between the clean channel and the dirty channel, there's a pretty big volume difference depending on how much gain you're running. So you can adjust the preset output level. So there's not like a huge volume difference when you're switching between channels. So that's pretty cool. There's a built-in EQ here as well, which is nice. This enhancer, which I've never used. And then there's the reverb, which is MIDI controllable, which is pretty cool. Same with if you buy the Revv foot switch, which I have, there's a dedicated reverb button to turn this on or off. So you can choose from a variety of different rooms here, adjust the size, echo, color. And I believe these are all addressable over MIDI. So you can have control over the reverb parameters outside of this application, which is pretty cool. And then if you want to save your changes, you can name it up here, choose a slot, and then hit save. Pretty straightforward, but this gives you a lot of control over your sound. And then outside of the virtual cabinet loader, there's also a separate IR loader. So if you don't want to use one of the cabinets and you just have IRs that you want to use, you can load them in here and then save the preset using the IR loader instead of the virtual cabinets. Then there's a cabinet manager. So on the right side here, you can see all of the cabinets that are already on the Revv G20. So you can load or unload cabinets. On the right-hand side, your preset manager. So if you have different preset files, you can load these on here, I guess. I don't really know. To be honest with you, I've never used the preset manager. I just do everything from the main virtual cabinet screen here. So one thing I want to go over was how I use this amp in the track that you heard in the intro. It's part of our upcoming EP, so I don't have a release date for that yet. The whole EP, I used the Revv G20 for all of the guitar parts. So I kind of want to do like a little track breakdown and just go through what settings I used, what kind of processing I used on it, and then just go through how the tracks sound with no processing at all. Before I do that, I just wanted to give a few thoughts on this amp, just go over a few things that I liked, a couple things that I didn't like, and then we'll get into it. So a few things that I really like about this amp. Obviously, the lunchbox format is super convenient. You know, I can just put it on a desk and keep it in my studio. But even when we start doing live shows, it'll be nice to just have a really lightweight amp to bring with me. I really like that it's got the Two Notes Torpedo built into the DI output. Really comprehensive cab simulation that most amps in this price range don't have. A really big selling point for me is being able to record without a cab and just go straight out of the DI, but have whatever kind of cab simulation I want, whether that's one of the options that's built into their Torpedo or some custom IRs. I really like the range of tones that you can get out of this. You know, you can get some just kind of edge of breakup sounds, or you can just go like full out with the distortion. The clean channel sounds really good. And then another thing I really like that I forgot to mention when I was going over the features is that any amp that has a built-in load box, there's always a switch on the back that allows you to switch between speaker mode or engaging the internal load. So the Revv has that, which is nice, but it also has a built-in safety feature so that if you forget to hit that switch, as long as you don't have a speaker cable plugged into the back, the G20 will automatically engage the built-in load box. Obviously, if you only disconnect the cable from the cabinet side, it's still going to detect a cabinet and it's not going to engage the load box. So just make sure you always disconnect the cable from the amp side. And I mean, it's a good idea to engage the internal load manually anyways with the switch, but at least if you forget, you don't have to worry about damaging your amp. There's not really a lot I don't like about this amp. I guess if I had to pick something, it would be the shared EQ. It would be nice to have a separate EQ for the clean and dirty channels, just because, you know, on the dirty channel, I'm really scooping the mids a lot. So if you then switch to the clean channel, it's impacting the clean sound as well. And, you know, most of the time I probably don't want that, but otherwise, I don't really have any other issues with this thing. It works pretty well. So I'm going to go through and do a quick breakdown of the track that you heard in the intro. So a few different guitar tracks here. So these are the two clean tracks from the intro. These 4 tracks basically make up the rhythm in the lead section. And I've just got them grouped together here. So we'll just go through each of these and kind of see how they sound on their own and then in context. So this is the clean picked section that's in the intro. And then for this, I just used one of the 2x12 cabinets in the Torpedo and obviously the clean channel. If I just turn off these effects here, this is what this sounds like. So on here, I'm actually using this Neural DSP archetype, the Revv one, but I have everything turned off here except for the reverb and this EQ, which isn't even doing anything. Yeah, so this EQ is not even doing anything. So the only thing that I'm using here is the delay and the reverb pedals. And then I've just got an SSL 4KB, just doing some cuts and boosts for the EQ, and then a compressor just to kind of level everything out. And the next track, it's labeled crunch, but it's not really crunch. It's just another clean channel. And again, if I just turn this off here. Again, I'm using another Neural DSP plugin here. This one, again, everything's off because I'm using the Two Notes for cab simulation. This EQ is not doing anything either. So all I'm using here is the delay and reverb from the Gojira Neural DSP plugin. So when we play these together, this is how they sound. So next we can take a look at the distorted guitars. So I double track everything. Originally this was quad tracked and I decided to get rid of everything here and just kind of treat this as a lead and then have this as the rhythm. There's no processing on these individual tracks. I just have everything on this group channel here. So I've got some pretty significant EQ changes. I'm using another instance of the SSL 4KB with some more EQ changes. I'm cutting the lows here, cutting the high mids and then boosting the highs. And then I'm also using this compressor. And that's, again, impacting both the lead and the rhythm channels. The lead here, I've got fully panned left and right, and then the rhythm is a bit tighter in. And then these last two EQs aren't actually doing anything. Once I set this processing group up, I just kind of save it and reuse it. And normally I have these set so that one of these is making space for the kick and the other one's making space for the snare, just doing side chaining, but I'm not doing that on this track. So if we turn all of this off, I'm just going to turn on a utility here just to compensate for the gain. So that's what it sounds like completely unprocessed. And then if we turn this back on, as you can hear, it's a pretty significant difference, but I just wanted the sound to be a lot brighter than what I was getting straight out of the amp, and I also wanted to cut more of the mids. And then we can also take a look at just this lead part here. So that's with the processing and then without. So for the lead, I used one of the 412 cabinets, I think one of the angle ones. And then for the rhythm on the left channel, I used one cabinet, and then on the right channel, I used a different cabinet. They sound good when they're mixed together. So you can hear there's slightly different sound. And then I was using the bridge pickup on these, and then the neck pickup for the lead. So then if we turn this back on, and this is how it all sounds in context with the rest of the track. much it. The vocals you're hearing here are Jesse. It sounds really good in the mix. Hopefully this review's been kind of helpful. Again, I think this amp is really good, especially in the studio. I haven't tried it live yet. Hopefully soon. And yeah, anyways, see you next time.